Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Berenice, for those of you guys that don't know me. If you do know me, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about my labor and delivery story. I do have a mini labor and delivery vlog that I was able to record while the whole process of being in labor, and I'm gonna link that down on the description box if you haven't seen it. But I wanted to go into detail and share with you guys everything that went down during my labor and delivery. So if you guys are interested, please keep on watching. Okay guys, so let me get started with a little bit of like backstory. If you've been following me on Instagram, then you know like all the mess that went down with my doctor about him wanting me to get induced. On January 10th, I had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor had scheduled an induction for me for January 14th, the week prior. So on January 10th, I spoke to my doctor and I told him that I didn't want to get induced because there was no like specific reason for me to be induced. So he went ahead and canceled the induction. On that appointment, my doctor did tell me that I was GBS positive. GBS is a bacteria, and 1 in 4 pregnant women get it. Now, you know, we all have good and bad bacteria. So I did ask my doctor, you know, if I did anything like to cause it or anything, and he said no, like, you know, sometimes it just happens. Now he did tell me to go ahead and go to the hospital as soon as I, you know, started labor, just because they would have to give me antibiotics so that the bacteria, the GBS, wouldn't affect the baby. I did ask, you know, why can I get antibiotics now before the baby comes? And he said that because, you know, it wouldn't affect me in any way. It would just be like bad for baby. So that's why it would have to be done during labor. So that was my appointment on Monday. And he did tell me, you know, more than likely the baby's gonna come during the weekend. He said those were his predictions. And so that was that. So fast forward to Friday morning at 8 in the morning, I began having contractions. When you're about to have a baby, the baby or your body clears out the way for the baby to come, and your body can do that in 2 ways. You can either have, you know, you can either go to the restroom and poop, have diarrhea, or you can, you know, just throw everything up. But it automatically does that, again, to make a way for the baby. So 8 in the morning, here I am having contractions, and I'm in the restroom just pooping, getting everything out of my system to open the way for the baby. Now, I knew it was baby time because that happened to me with Emmanuel, and TMI, but with Emmanuel, I had Emmanuel on a Sunday, and the Saturday before Sunday, we had a cookout, and y'all, I ate like a pig. So on Sunday, y'all, I like before labor, I was just like pooping everything that I had ate the day before. So I knew that that was happening like this time. Well, I knew that that's what was happening this time. So here I am using the restroom with contractions and everything. Emmanuel was asleep, my husband was at work, but I was like, you know, texting him, like letting him know, like, hey, I think it's baby time, like I'm having contractions like this, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm a baby. I'm a chicken when it comes to pain, but I could handle those contractions. Like they weren't terrible. But I did get scared because, you know, what my doctor said about the GBS. So I wasn't gonna risk it. You know, so I was like, I'm gonna go to the hospital. So I decided to go to the hospital whenever Emmanuel woke up, because I didn't want to wake him up, and I mean that was gonna be like the last time he was gonna sleep good. So Emmanuel woke up at 11:30, and you know, I told my husband, like, you know, we need to go drop him off with my in-laws, and then, you know, we need to go to the hospital. During that time, like from 8 to 11:30, I did get my makeup done. I got the bags ready. Well, they were already ready, but you know, I got them like out so that we could, you know, put them in the car. We drop off Emmanuel and my in-laws, and I actually get off to drop him off together with my husband. And I got off to use the restroom also. So I get off and my mother-in-law is like, what? Like, I thought you were gonna be in the car like in pain. And I was like, no, like I'm fine. I'm having contractions, but they're not that bad. Like, they're not terrible. But you know, just to be safe with the GBS and all of that, like that's why we're going to the hospital. So we drop off one of my in-laws. We get to the hospital. I tell my husband to get the diaper bag out. Y'all, this man didn't believe me that I was in labor. He was like, no, they're probably gonna send you home. Like, they're not gonna give us a room. And I'm like, because he didn't see me in pain. That's why. But I was like, no, like, you know, it's happening. But all right, like, he didn't get the bag off. We go inside the hospital and they check our temperature and they actually gave us a mask. We already had some on, but you know, they gave us the one from the hospital, I guess, just to use that one. So we go to the labor and delivery section, and the nurses there were like, I mean, it's because I wasn't in like crazy pain. Like, I guess they were expecting me to be like twisting and like, you know, just like suffering, but I was just like walking like nothing. They go ahead and give me my room. They give me the robe to change into, and I go ahead and change it to the robe and whatever. And then one of the nurses comes to check me. She wants to see like how far along I am dilated, right? And I honestly thought that I was gonna be like probably like maybe at a 4. So she checks me and she's like, you're at an 8. And I'm like, what? I was so like surprised, just because like again my contractions weren't terrible. And so again, I was comparing everything with Emmanuel, because with Emmanuel I was having like terrible contractions, but yeah, I was only at like freaking 3 centimeters. So this time I was like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was at 8 centimeters and that I wasn't having like terrible pain. So even the nurse, she's like, okay, I'm gonna check you again. And so she checks me again and she's like, yeah, you're at an 8. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this kid is coming. So now they started like actually taking me serious. Like, well, not that they weren't taking me serious, but like they knew that it was real, that baby was coming. You know, and even my husband, like he actually like he was shook too, just like me. Again, because I'm telling you, he didn't believe me. So anyways, a lot of other nurses start coming in and they have me signing consents. You know, they connect me to an IV and everything. They connect me to antibiotics, and one of the nurses comes and tells me, your doctor is not in for the weekend, so the doctor on call is gonna deliver your baby. Yeah, if you connect the dots, if you connect the story, why did my doctor induce me the day, like, to have the baby a day before, Thursday the 14th? Why would he do that? Because he wasn't gonna be there the weekend. Like, that's whenever it clicked that he had done that, you know, because he knew he wasn't gonna be there the weekend, so he wanted to like deliver the baby when he was there. He had put my labor and delivery in his schedule. He wanted it to fit his schedule. I am so glad that we canceled that induction and, you know, we just did what my body needed to do. But yeah, guys, that's the tea. And most of you guys on Instagram told me like, oh, you know, he probably has something to do and that's why, you know, he's scheduling that induction. So, you know, but anyways, God bless him. So yeah, they tell me that, you know, another doctor's gonna deliver the baby, and I'm like, it's fine, like I don't mind, you know, God is in control, they're professionals, and you know, this baby's gonna come, whatever. Then they never did like a COVID test on me. Like, we did tell them that we had COVID like late October, if I'm not mistaken. And so they said that because of that, there was like a 90-day period that we didn't have to get like test. Well, because my husband wasn't gonna get tested, it was just gonna be me. So so yeah, they didn't test me for COVID, and it was because of that, because I had already had COVID in October, and it was still in between those 90 days that we have antibodies, whatever they're called. So yay, I didn't get tested for COVID. So and I was actually scared to get tested for COVID because I heard that it's like super painful to do it, like whenever they do it up your nose. So I didn't have to go through that, thank God. And then yeah, so anyways, they did all of that, and my water hadn't broken just yet. So you know, they were telling me that once my water would break, like the contractions were gonna be, you know, they were gonna intensify. So I mean, I was just like trying to help my body out, and I was just like walking around the hospital, and then, you know, it got a little uncomfortable, so I just started walking in my room for like, I don't know, a few hours. They did ask me if I wanted to get an epidural, but at the moment, since I wasn't in any pain, I was like, I don't want it right now. Like, I don't want to ask for it, because, you know, I'm not gonna be able to walk and, you know, help my body and whatever. And then again, I'm not in a lot of pain. Like, I can handle this. Like, I don't want to do it just yet, you know, but if I need it, like, I'm gonna ask for it. Like, after a few hours, it was probably maybe 3:30, and the doctor came and he's like, all right, we're gonna check you. And so he checks me and he's like, you're at a 6. Excuse me? Homegirl just told me I was at an 8. How? So he's like, okay, we're gonna check you again whenever you get a contraction, and you're gonna push. And that had never happened. Like, that didn't happen with Emmanuel, so this was new. But I was like, all right, like, he's a doctor, I'm gonna do it. So here I am, we're waiting on a contraction, and so here comes the contraction, and he's like, all right, push. And so he's like obviously checking my cervix, and he's like, and I'm like pushing, like and and he's like, okay, you're at an 8. Okay, you're at a 9.5. And then that was so painful, guys. Like, here I am pushing, and here he is like checking my cervix. So it was like super painful. He did tell me, like, you know, that they were gonna have to break my water if it didn't break. So that was a little scary, and because that part was painful, I was just thinking, like, you know, it's just gonna get more painful. So I told my nurse, I was like, I need to get the epidural. So she's like, I don't think you need it. Oh, and fun fact, the nurse that I had, like, during this labor and delivery was the same nurse that was with me whenever Emmanuel was born. And yeah, she was the bomb.com with Emmanuel, and this time around, like, hardcore the best girl. Megan, if you ever get to watch this video, if you ever get to come across my YouTube channel, God bless you, girl. I love you because you were the best. Now, I did pray for the nurses and the doctors, like, prior to going, you know, in my prayer time, I would always pray for the nurses and the doctors that would be in there with me. And God definitely hooked it up because they were the best. So anyways, she's like, no, I don't think you need it. You know, you're at an 8. You know, I think you can do it. Like, cheering me on. And I'm like, no, girl, like, get me that thing. She's like, all right. So she calls the, I think they're called neurologist. I don't know what they're called. But she calls the anesthesiologist. I think that's what it is. And she's like, we'll get you the epidural. And so I'm like, all right, like, I'm gonna use the restroom before they come. And actually, guys, like the doctor checking my cervix during the contraction and doing all of that mess, like pushing and everything, um was so painful. And then like after that, I actually started like bleeding. Like whenever I went to the restroom and I wiped myself, like there was actually blood. So I was like, ooh, like something happened. But anyways, so the anesthesiologist comes, and she begins to like prep me to get my epidural. And y'all, this was weird because I could actually feel the liquid of the epidural going down like my spine, and it was painful. Now with Emmanuel, y'all, like with Emmanuel, it was like heaven. Like I only felt like a little pinch, and then after that, like everything was gone. Like I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel nothing. But this time around, like it was so weird because I could still feel my legs, I could still move. Yeah, like, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself, but anyways, so she supposedly put me in epidural, and then after that, like I went ahead and laid down, and like 2 seconds after laying down and after they put me the epidural, like my water broke and I could feel it. And so that was that. Like my nurse actually, like, tried to clean me up, like remove the towel from under me, and I could still kind of like lift up my legs, lift up my body, because I could feel everything. So I could still feel the contractions. I'm telling you, I could still feel everything. And that's because they didn't give me an epidural. They gave me a spinal cord, a spinal block. I think that's what it's called. And so, yeah, that's why I could feel everything, because it wasn't the epidural. It's supposed to, at the end, my nurse did tell me that it was because the epidural was gonna take a little longer to kick in, and then a little longer, to wear off. So and she said that because I was at an 8 and I was about to, like so far during labor, that it was just best to do the spinal block. And then again, because she yeah, so they just did it. They just did the spinal block. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't know that it wasn't that it wasn't the epidural. So anyways, my water breaks, and then like maybe like 15 minutes pass, 20 minutes the max, and then she comes back and she's like, okay, like we're gonna start pushing. And I'm like, all right. So here I am pushing, and I actually feel everything. Like I feel the contractions, but I'm just doing what I have to do. So I pushed maybe like 2 times with my nurse, like just my nurse. And then the doctor came in and he's like, all right, like it's baby time. Like everybody starts coming in, like the nurse for the baby, this other nurse. And so I began to push, and it was so painful. So painful. TMI, but I could feel, I'm telling you, TMI, but my vagina opening, like if the doctor was like opening it up. And I even asked my husband, like after that, after like we were alone, like I was like, did the doctor ever do that? Like did he like open me up? And my husband was like, no. And I was like, that's legit what it felt. That's what it felt like. It felt like they were like opening it up. Of course, it was the baby. It wasn't the doctor. So anyways, this was like the third push, and I was like, I can feel everything. Why can I feel everything? That's why I got the epidural. And I stopped pushing. And then the doctor's like as I was saying that, the doctor legit just like catches the baby. And he's like, he puts it on my chest, of course. But I mean, that's why it was so, I mean, because the head was coming out, that's why it was so painful. But mind you, with Emmanuel, I did not feel anything. That epidural worked wonders with Emmanuel. So I was expecting the same thing, you know, to not feel anything, to not feel any pain. Anyways, here's the baby, he's on my chest, and then my nurse tells me, look at the knot on his cord. So the baby, my son Ezekiel, had a knot on his umbilical cord. As she was saying that, as she said, you know, he has a knot on his cord, she did say, he's a miracle baby. And I was like, what? And so there was another nurse that was taking pictures, and she said, you know, take a picture of that. Take a picture of that, because that's like rare. Now here I am with my baby, like laying down, like everything open, everything out. So I obviously didn't know what was going on, but you know, I do remember her saying that, and I do remember like everything that happened. So they start cleaning the baby on me. My husband cuts the umbilical cord, you know, they take the baby to clean him. And then my doctor starts like stitching me up. Yeah. Again, I could feel everything. I could feel whenever the needle will go inside, and whenever he would pull it, like I could feel everything. I had a second-degree tear, so he was like, you know, there taking his time, like sewing me back up. It was painful. It was, I think, I don't even know if that was like more painful, or like the baby coming out was more painful. But I like legit held my husband's hand because I could feel it. And then whenever the placenta came out, like here he is, he's like, all right, the placenta's coming out, and he pushes my stomach, and again I felt everything. So once the doctor's done, and you know, he like leaves the room, I ask the nurse, you know, like what happened with like the umbilical cord, like how does that happen? And she's like, well, it's usually whenever, you know, babies flip or they turn like inside the stomach, like the umbilical cord can get like tied into a knot. She did mention that if the knot would have been like tighter, that you know, there wouldn't be any like nutrients, like life going into the baby. So you know, most of the time, she said, you can have like a stillborn baby, because you know, they just die inside you. And I asked her, like, could they have noticed that in an ultrasound? And she said, you know, most of the time, you know, you can't see it on an ultrasound, but you know, whenever they do, like, you know, they try to do something. So yeah, that was so scary. Like I had no idea, like we had no idea. I mean, God protected my child. God protected him, and you know, thank God, like he was alive and healthy. And you know, even with that big old knot on his umbilical cord, like he was still, you know, getting his nutrients and his food and everything. And just, I'm so grateful to God that he protected my son. And that's why whenever I introduced my son on Instagram, like that's why I called him a miracle baby, because that's the first thing the nurse said, you know, like that's a miracle baby. And yeah, praise God, he's, you know, good and healthy and happy. So anyways, let me get back to my story. So there was about to be like a shift change. So my nurse was about to leave, and another nurse was about to come in. And so like I think it was like maybe 40 minutes after giving birth, I was like, I need to use the restroom. So I'm telling you, I had no idea it wasn't the epidural, but I'm about to get to that. So I was actually able to get up and use the restroom 40 minutes after giving birth. And so my nurse comes with me, and the other nurse that was about to like cover her shift, you know, goes to the restroom with me too, and like they're like talking, and my nurse is like telling her like, oh yeah, she was at an A and blah blah blah, and you know, she asked for the epidural and blah blah blah. But you know, we gave her a spinal block. So that's whenever I heard it. That's whenever I heard that they hadn't gave me the epidural, that it was something else. And I was like, and so I asked her like what the heck a freaking spinal block was. And so she told me what I just told you guys. And so they didn't give me an epidural. Not because I didn't want it, because I sure wanted it. But yeah, guys, that was my labor and delivery. It wasn't like terrible, like thank God. It wasn't long either. I'm telling you, we got to the hospital at 12:30. The baby was born at 4:59, so it was really fast. So praise God, like praise God. I'm so happy. Like none of my labor and deliveries were like traumatic or like terrible and long. It was actually a positive labor and delivery. Now if you guys have any other questions, you know, just ask down below. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sticking around during my whole you know, mess with the induction and everything. And I hope you guys give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you guys subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching.